I think back to that time too. I might have been 13 or 14, just seeing the beating of Rodney King for the first time on TV, and just wondering what are they doing. There's like four, five, six people just seem to be just beating on this lifeless body, and it's seared into my brain.
I'm Ashraya Gupta, and this is Homework. As the school year comes to a close, many teachers have been spending these last weeks engaged with the fight for justice and Black liberation. For some, that fight has very obvious entry points. They're at rallies, demanding police-free schools, organizing around budget decisions. For others, the work is about their classrooms, their families, their neighborhoods. In today's episode, we'll hear from teachers confronting anti-Blackness, both in their personal and professional lives.
And I'm just thinking back to my elementary school and my middle school and high school, and they were at different places. But what I remember is either being in a predominantly Black school or a predominantly white school, and always having to navigate between these two majorities. And of course, thinking a lot about the model minority myth these days, especially with conversations with my parents, who seem to be apolitical as far as American politics, but super political in terms of their own country of origin, which is Korea.
Tim is a poet and an English teacher. He's been staying with his parents, helping them through the pandemic, and now talking to them about racism and police violence.
It's not that they don't care, but they don't seem to be engaged in the same way that I feel like I should be. And a lot of that is historical, it's complex, and it's based on this idea of not being accepted as American in the beginning, and throughout. And even now, they are 72 years old and they don't feel completely American, even with an American passport and their children having been born here. They don't feel this need to step up right now for the Black community.
Tim isn't alone as a non-Black person of color struggling to get his family to see Black liberation as part of their struggle. The crowdsourced project Letters for Black Lives attempts to address exactly this disconnect. The letters, available in over 30 different languages, seek to explain the Black Lives Matter movement and address anti-Blackness within different communities. For Tim, part of what's been difficult is combating media narratives about looting.
Strangely, these protests and all the good parts of it, all the exciting, necessary parts of it, are somewhat being eclipsed in their minds because they're thinking back to, the early '90s during the LA riots, and the beating of Rodney King, and they have such visceral images of Asian businesses, Korean businesses in particular, being looted, being trashed, being abandoned by even the police, and having to defend their own stores and their only way to make any kind of future for their children born in the United States. And so, I don't know, I have mixed feelings. And I think a lot of Asian Americans from my generation feel this kind of tension, this dilemma.
There have been some examples of what solidarity might look like. In Minneapolis, Ruhul Islam, the Bangladeshi owner of Gandhi Mahal restaurant, which was burned and damaged during protests, went viral when his daughter quoted him saying, "Let my building burn, justice needs to be served." And Tim is continuing to talk with his family about the murder of George Floyd.
And I made my father watch the video. And interestingly, he had all sorts of rage toward this cop, but even more so to the Asian officers who were standing adjacent and doing nothing. Part of, obviously, in my mind, the structure, this systemic problem of policing in this country.
Mayor de Blasio had instated a curfew around the city. It was June 5th.
Lucas is an English teacher. He grew up in Brooklyn and still calls it home.
a lot of people were frustrated. A lot of people were intentionally breaking the curfew. I was at home with the intersection of me not wanting to get COVID, not wanting to get arrested, especially as an untenured teacher. I was on Twitter and I began to see that I think it was either Eastern Parkway or Nostrand Ave was trending locally, and I looked, and it turned out that there were still people protesting, breaking the curfew, and that they were walking down Eastern Parkway and making a raid on Nostrand.
You might have seen video of this a few weeks back. In one of them, a staffer for Julia Salazar, New York State Senator, is initially filming the arrest of an essential worker, and then he's chased by the police, beaten, and arrested.
And so then I begin watching this live stream, and it's absolutely surreal to see protesters getting kettled basically on your block. I felt really frustrated. I felt really powerless because I wanted to bear witness to the moment, but was immediately afraid of what would happen if I tried to go there or record anything. But then I opened my window and I could actually hear the protests happening from my window. So I felt like there was something that I had to do, at least to bear witness to the moment. So I opened up my window and I started recording the sound. So that's what this recording is of. It's not super clear. It's pretty faint, but it was haunting in the moment, to say the least.
Being abroad, on sabbatical, I think I'm experiencing an outsized version of the frustration Lucas felt watching from his window. I can't seem to find my fight. I worry that schools will get a kind of cosmetic makeover. We'll give school safety agents and deans a new name, we'll have a series of anti-racist professional development for teachers, but we'll continue to have segregated schools, and for the majority of our Black and brown students, we'll continue to demand extraordinary effort to achieve only ordinary unhappiness. Like Lucas, I'm trying to document, bear witness. Homework is presented in collaboration with the Academy for Teachers. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and reach us at thisishomeworkpod@gmail.com.